going to talk a little bit about how your interests come into play in your career. Now, this is something that people have a lot of strong opinions about. So take this with a grain of salt. This is my own personal take on it because there's a lot of different ways of looking at this. So the previous or the traditional way of looking at a career path is that your career path needs to be at the intersection of your skills and your interests. Now, I believe that people are starting to focus in on finding a career path that aligns with the life that they want to lead. COVID did a number on us, and we're all trying to find a job that allows us to have some semblance of life outside of work. With that being said, when people are considering their values, their interests aren't always top priority. So here's how I believe all of those three things come into play. I believe your values help you find a job that aligns with the life that you want to lead and, feel good about the organization that you're in. I believe that your strengths are important because you need to feel useful in the job that you're in and to feel like the job is engaging in your strengths. And that helps you feel more passionate and interested in what you're doing. And then I believe you need to be interested in whatever it is that you're learning. You don't necessarily have to be interested in what the company is doing unless that's a value of yours, but you do need to be interested in what you're learning. So when I ask people about their interests, the biggest question that I would answer is, what do you enjoy learning about? List those things out, reflect on those things, and think about how they intersect with your values. Pick up on if there's any values that you missed previously that you want to list. For example, if you're interested in the earth, did you forget that sustainability is a value? So pick apart those things. What you're interested in learning might not always be what your core interests are. You might find that your core interests are something that you engage in more even outside of work. The reason why I say that finding a job that is solely focused on your interest isn't always the most important thing is because sometimes your interests don't align with your values in the work setting. For example, say somebody is interested in becoming a veterinarian because they love animals and they want to spend all their time with animals. However, they have a value of flexibility, autonomy, and mobility. Now, owning a vet clinic might not allow them to lean into those values in the way that they would prefer. So when you're thinking about the job that is important to you in your next step or in the long term, you want to think about what interests would still align with your values. That's why I put these things in a chart next to each other, values, strengths, and interests, because you want to be able to cross-reference these things. If you are interested in things that are highly technical and require advanced degrees, that's when your job is probably going to intersect more with your interests. If it requires a PhD or a master's degree, then there's going to be a lot more overlap. But if your job doesn't require that, you can think about whether or not you want your job how much of your job should involve your interests and how much of your time outside of work should involve those interests. I almost imagine life like a pie chart. I might have said this before. And each aspect of your life is a section of the pie within the pie chart. And if your job doesn't include all of your interests, you can try to fit those in other areas of your life in the pie chart. Last but not least, another way that your interests might come into account is within the industry section of exploring jobs. If you are really interested in healthcare, well-being, advancing research on cancer, then perhaps you could look for a marketing job in the healthcare realm. So that's another way that you can tie your interests in with your job, is by pursuing an industry that aligns with those interests.